I love Capcom. Capcom's my boy. I love Resident Evil. I love Devil May Cry. I love over the top, crazy, wacky wahoo Pizza Man stuff.
Hi everyone, this is Loyal with Glen Trigger Gamers, and we're here today to talk about video game discussions. And our discussion today is actually suggested by one of our fans on Discord.
Yep, and that's where you can find other suggestions, and you can make your own suggestions on our Discord. So this topic has been suggested by one of our fans, good man, good person, Mr. Huey, on our Discord. We're going to talk about games that were amazing in concept, but terrible in execution. So, let's just jump into it. What games are there?
So the games we're going to be talking about today is first Evolve, that was released on the PS4 or 360?
I think it was PC, to be honest. First
PC? Okay.
I mean, it ported to them, so maybe it was like all at the same time, but
okay.
I don't remember.
So
okay.
Evolve, we both played the demo or the beta or whatever it is they had out at the time, and we both agreed. We both agreed that it was a fun game.
Yeah.
So, what happened?
Basically, it was fun for like 10, 15 minutes. It's one of those games, like looking back at Evolve, because I made a video about Evolve that if I'm listed on the channel because I don't want to talk about it. But we made a video on Evolve where basically I liked it and I really enjoyed it, but then it had this thing of like, it was the first around the first asymmetrical multiplayer games where you go after one big baddie and then you got like 4 people on a team and then everyone's got to work together, you know that stuff.
Yep.
But I don't know, it felt like maybe because it was first person and maybe because it was just felt like either your team was the best or your team was the worst. There was no in between.
And that's the typical thing when it comes to asymmetrical 4-player type games, because like right now you have games. I guess the only game I see that's really still huge in asymmetrical gaming is Dead by Daylight. It's still the same concept. You can have.
I mean, Friday the 13th is still there.
Friday the 13th is still there, but that's more of like a co game now. Because honestly, that game was horrible.
I mean, yeah, it was glitchy as hell. I remember.
Yeah, but it's a cult classic because it's Friday the 13th. You have Jason chasing you down. You're right. That is the closest thing you'll get to that. Dead by Daylight has all the other horror people like Michael Myers and Leatherface and all that, but it's the same thing as with Evolve, as you mentioned. You can have really crappy teammates or you can have really good teammates. But it's a really toxic game, so I felt like Evolve probably would have gone down that route too. Yeah. The main thing with it is that there wasn't that much marketing on it. Like maybe once in a while we'll see Evolve on maybe a commercial or maybe on the back of a magazine. Yeah. But once the game came out, nobody really knows what the heck it was.
Yeah, and I think also another thing with that game was that the fact that it was a full price game. And it didn't feel like a full price because I think there was like only 4 or 3 maps, and then it only had like 2 different types of monsters. And for anybody that doesn't know Evolve, it's just basically a giant monster that's like kind of like a Godzilla looking monster goes around trying to kill a bunch of your teammates, and you're supposed to work together using your skills and kill it. The difference being from like most asymmetrical is usually those are like horror kind of survival games. This was a first person shooter, and for me, I think that was the biggest thing is that the maps were huge and you'd be looking for everywhere for this monster and it'd be hiding, and it just it didn't seem like, compared to like most asymmetrical games where it's a small map and then you guys kind of like do the thing around it. This one was just like a multiplayer map. You would just run around doing things and there was no other tasks. That's a big thing now that I remember. There was no other task in the game other than hunting down and killing the monster. So it became boring extremely fast. It's free to play now, so that speaks to how it is.
Yeah, because it's unfortunate. You have the free to play games that are very heavy on microtransactions, which makes sense. Yeah. Or you have games that fail to become free to play games like Evolve.
Yeah, it's like that. So you talk about Evolve, okay? I got another game that will speak to the execution context. But I love this game. I love it so much. But I know it's bad in execution. It's Breakdown. Most people don't know about this game. It came out for the Xbox a while ago, original Xbox, and it's a first-person shooter fighter. Kind of, it's a, what would you call it?
I don't know. I don't know if it's really much of a shooter. I don't remember if you pick up guns.
You do pick up guns. You do. It just they don't really aim well because it's like I'm trying to be a mix. So I remember the guns have auto targeting and not actual aiming. It's just there's a lot of weird the concepts is weird.
Just overall, the game is better played if you play with your fist because that's exactly the point of the game.
Yeah.
You go and, like breakdown, if you really were to translate what breakdown is, it's actually beat down. So
yeah. It's basically, yeah. I mean, the game's cool for the fact that, like, I like the atmosphere. I like the weird story. I like how in the game you actually can go back in time. That's like a cool part of it. There's a lot of cool parts in that game, but the execution of the combat is just too stiff and it doesn't feel like you're actually it doesn't feel like you're fighting. You're playing rock paper scissors with the monsters. You don't actually use your combative skills. You're just like press this button, see if it hits him.
Right. Unlike a typical fighting game where if you fight, it's going to be a free flowing move. You have your combos, you have your skills. Depends on what buttons you press. Like Mortal Kombat is exactly that.
Yeah.
This game, it's a first person, and you're going around and you're doing a one hit punch, and it takes like a half a second to a second before you can change to another punch. Yep. It feels weird.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly that. It feels freaking weird. It just feels like the dude's fighting in slow motion. But I gotta say, it's pretty cool that I could click a button on a vending machine and then pick it up and it's like, I drank the can of soda. I remember I did that the whole entire time.
Those little things in the game makes it really interesting and fun.
You got another game?
So this game probably from our list is the most recent game, and it's No Man's Sky. Open world, everybody loves them to a certain extent, but No Man's Sky is extremely open world. But the problem is that everybody knows this by now. When the game was initially released, everything that the developers promised was not there. It was an empty game. Have anything except for you, yourself, and the empty vast of space, and it was a lonely, lonely world.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Is like I don't understand how they didn't realize there's this giant world we want to explore. Why don't we want to do it with our friends? Why don't we want to have people like come in and exploring stuff with me? Like if you're exploring, you want to meet people, not I want to be in this vast, lonely, depressive area of space and not see anything.
You think the game itself, the reason why they promised everything, but yet it came out the way it is because maybe it was rushed?
I know. I think 100% it was like rushed and like because I remember it's one of the most expensive AAA indie games because the team was like 10 people, but they had the backing of like Sony. They had a lot of funding. And so I think the thing was like kind of like they had ideas, but since they were such a small team, they couldn't make the ideas work the way they wanted to. As you can see, like now, No Man's Sky is vastly different from what it used to be. But I remember the original base game, because I bought it on launch. But the original game was basically, it felt empty. Even though it was big, it felt empty. I don't know how to explain that, but it felt empty.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, what is there to grind? Like you said, now the game, it's better, and it should have been. It's what it is now is what it should have been back then when it was first released. Yeah. But the problem with it now is that by the time they finally updated the game and added everything that it was promised, it's too late. Everybody kind of got past the fact that it's a failed game.
100%. Yeah, it's. Yeah, I mean, at least now we can say it's a little bit better in execution.
Yeah.
From what it used to be. I hear a lot of like I haven't played it. I know you've played it, and you said that it's a lot better. You know? It
is a lot better. And like everything you have monsters around the world. You have things you can grind. The space combat is a lot better. The exploration is a lot better. The main problem still is that you will meet people now since they have the multiplayer on the game. But they're just kind of there just to stare you down. It's more like everybody's just doing their own thing, but they're in the same universe. So nothing really came out in that multiplayer anyways, in my opinion.
Oof, yeah. I feel like that should have been the big thing. That leads me into another one of my games that I feel kind of is... This hurts me because I love Capcom. Capcom's my boy. I love Resident Evil. I love Devil May Cry. I love over the top, crazy, wacky, wahoo, pizza man stuff. Anyways, but... the thing that bothers me about this game is that it just feels like It's not fun. But basically, the game's Project X Zone, if you're wondering. Project X Zone for the DS is basically, it's a tactics game with every, I want to say Namco, Capcom, all these characters. Like there's so many freaking characters from so many different types of games.
Yeah, it was a Namco versus Capcom type game.
Yeah, but the thing about the game is that it sounds so cool. It's like all these characters is mashed up from everything. Oh, and they get to talk and interact, and there's all these stories. And you play the game, and it just feels the most slowest paced game because it feels like they were trying to fit every story and character and interaction into this whole game. It just feels like this epic of like an Odyssey story or something where you don't feel like you're getting anywhere. You have to do so many tactics battles in between. So the game is like so long. And I feel like if they would have streamlined it maybe and maybe like shortened down the campaign or shortened down like the interactions, it would have been more fun. It feels like a 100-hour game, but it's like only 20 hours or something. I think it's like 20 or 30, somewhere around there.
I hated the fact that the game had tactics. And I know the battle system itself, it was called cross-active battle system.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You know, and you would just press the A button on the DS, and then you have to use combinations with the circle pad to do like, you know, attacks. That itself was clunky to me. That felt clunky. So even when you got to the point where you got to the 2D plane of the two fighters going against each other, you still have to input these buttons and then they'll execute the attack. And at that point, it just started to become of like a mobile game.
Yeah, dude. Oh, yeah. That makes sense. Oh, that's exactly the way it felt. It felt like like a grinding a mobile game, and it just didn't feel fun.
Yeah. But they did release a sequel to it.
Yeah, Project X Zone 2.
Yeah.
But I think it was just the fact that it has so many characters in it, and the interactions are really cool. Like the story and everything is really cool. It's one of those games where you would play through and you'd never play it again. You would not want to go back and replay it because of how long the freaking game is.
Yep. So this next one is on PS3, and you guys may or may not remember this game whatsoever, but it's called Fracture. Mm-hmm. And the cover of the game will show this dude. It will show a picture of his feet and like San Francisco Bay completely destroyed, and there's not really a context to it. But yeah, it's pretty much like a post-apocalyptic shooter type game. It plays like Gears of War in a way, but the main thing that differentiates the game from everything else is that it uses terraforming as its main thing.
Oh, so like you mean like moving the rocks and stuff, moving down?
Yeah. So like if you were I don't know any other type of terraform games exactly, you know, but
the giant genre.
Yeah, I was like, I would say just imagine your character they have a physics gun from like Half-Life, and they use that and they freaking like put a giant stone wall from the ground in front of you to block bullets from shooting at you.
Oh, so you're an earthbender. You're a freaking earthbender.
Yeah, you're a freaking earthbender with guns.
Yeah. Just that's the tagline of the game. Earthbender with guns.
Yeah.
Sold. But
but that's the thing. It's like the game had a really cool concept because you had the terraforming thing. That was the main thing about the game. But unfortunately, the game itself was a piece of crap because it didn't play well.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the main thing. It's like everything was there, but the game wasn't, well, exactly like our topic says, executed well. It was laggy, it was clunky, it was slow. The shooting sometimes, it just did not make sense. You know, you have all these weapons. You have things called like the entrencher or the tectonic grenade. That sounds cool. It's like you're below Earth. and stuff like that. So they really, really put in with all the futuristic stuff, but it just didn't go through. Maybe because they spent too much time on it, or they didn't spend enough time on it, or they just had too much going on with their terraforming concept that it broke the game.
Possibly.
Because I mean, when I picked it up, it was 80 cents.
Jesus. God damn. Well, my next game, The Old Republic. I'm going to say it. I want KOTOR 3. I don't want The Old Republic. I played The Old Republic. Sounds cool. MMORPG, Star Wars game. You can be a Jedi. You can do all the stuff that was in Knights of the Old Republic. It was an RPG, so it would have checked out. Would have made sense. But you play the game, and it feels like every other MMORPG, and you don't have fun with it. Also, what they did to Revan was bull. I love Revan. He's my boy, or she, whatever. Well, I think it's canon. He's he, but canon because they turn him into crap. Anyways, the game just feels like every MMORPG. It's not fun. and I would rather have KOTOR 3, especially. And the thing that sucks is that intro movie. You remember that intro movie from the Knights of the Old Republic?
I do. It was pretty epic.
Or the Old Republic is so good. It's just like, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna get into it, and then you're like, go do a fetch quest, go do a fetch quest, go do a fetch quest, grind, punch this thing for like 3 times, get enough experience, and you're just like, this is MMO life. Okay, yeah. Cool.
Fell down the MMORPG route, like you said. You know, that's the problem. You know, like, here's the thing too. Initially it came out, when the game came out, it had a subscription fee of like $14-15 a month.
Yeah.
All right. But the only other 2 games that started out like way back in the day that started out with subscription fees is World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 11. Those were the only 2 games that had a base subscription fee.
Yeah.
But those 2 games were successful because it didn't exactly follow down that path of, let me go fetch this and run to this and fetch this and run to this. It had it, but the main thing was, well, World of Warcraft is one. I honestly don't care for it. I'll probably get a lot of hate for that, but I don't care for it. I was a Final Fantasy 11 person, you know, and that's the main thing. Final Fantasy 11, if you die in that game, you will de-level. It was like the Dark Souls of the Final Fantasy world.
Yeah, you told me about that. It's
crazy. It was extremely hard, and that's what made it unique. Star Wars could have been like Knights of the Old Republic, the first one or the second one. Or in general, I would have preferred KOTOR 3 too, because that's what I thought when the game was being released. I was like, oh shoot, we're finally getting a new, you know, Knights of the Old Republic. It's not. Still excited, you know, because I started playing as a freaking Sith, and then just like went out and stuff. But I played it until I got to, like, I guess at the time the max level was like 60 or 70 or something like that. And I got to like 60. That's when the game started to go downhill really hardcore, because that's when they started to go more towards the free-to-play model. You know, the game is now free to play, but it is extremely heavy on microtransactions.
Yeah.
Don't even know how the game still exists. Maybe because it's a Star Wars game and there's still a lot of dedicated players to it.
It disappoints me because, like, I feel like because the execution was not great with the Old Republic, we may never ever see KOTOR 3. Which, those 2 games, KOTOR 1 and 2, are fantastic. I love those games. Like, they're what introduced me to BioWare, because before that I never messed with, like, you know, the Dragon Age series or any of that. But like Star Wars, that was my and playing an RPG around Star Wars that like was actually crazy and cool and had this whole new lore that I never knew about, that was sick.
It's a money-making game now. That's what it is. You know, they destroy the story, and I mean, we're not going to get KOTOR 3 at this point, like you said, and we're definitely not going to get it now because Disney owns Star Wars.
True.
So,
True.
You know.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's one of those things where sad day. Yeah. Do you have any more other games that you want to talk about? Or is that
we got this last one, Mortal Kombat Mythologies, Sub-Zero.
Hey guys, thanks for watching our video today. It really helps us when you guys stay throughout the whole video. Please check out our Discord, where you can submit questions, ideas, topics. Whatever topics you suggest, we can also actually consider it and put it into our next video as well. So you will be mentioned, potentially. Link is in the description below. Hello. After the video, if you guys want to go ahead and hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell, we really appreciate it, you know, because you will be updated on any new videos that we have coming out, and we always love it when you guys check us out. Also, check out our Twitch. We stream around 9 p.m. every weekend, and we would love to see you there.
What? What? What?
He just slaughtered a whole family. That's what he's doing. He's like, no, I don't want to mess with you guys. I'm just gonna wipe out this whole family over here.
Holy